lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
And for all your information of Israel, what else? We have Hanok Young, Moda'in, the guy with the Harabite shirt, talking about the temple, probably, like you always do, right?
Well,
And
I
a
may
few other
always
things.
do, but I probably should do a lot more, actually. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But, it's interesting. It would be nice if we had kind of a break of, like nothing hair on fire important to talk about at a given moment.
Yeah,
And that just doesn't seem to be our lot in life.
no, no, not right
Um,
now.
you know, just just last night, so I guess it would have been Monday night through last night, yeah, because today's Wednesday, was the 34th anniversary of the assassination of Rav Kahana.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, and you know, like with a family member, when you're commemorating the anniversary of their death, it's a whole flood of emotions
Yeah,
and memories and things. And his pointing out the importance of the Harabayat of the Temple Mount was really something that, among many things, stuck with me.
yeah.
But in any case, you know, uh, I've never been approached by so many Israelis that know me who want my insights into the new Trump administration,
Oh, yeah,
the forthcoming one, of which I basically say, I have no idea.
yeah.
And I don't want to spend any time talking about the different personalities that aren't connected with Israel, because that's domestic American politics and not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
So, of course, the first thing is America's new ambassador to Israel. Now, the last one, excuse me, the current one I had very little use for.
Oh, yeah,
The previous one, Ambassador Friedman, was amazing. Great guy, really. And he wrote a book recently, about in effect, a one-state solution.
yeah,
I have to try to get that book when I'm in the US in the next few months. Mike Huckabee.
yeah. That was a surprise because I mean, I was looking for the nomination of mutual friend Tommy Waller. I think that would have been great, but
That would have
Huckabee,
been an unusual pick.
yeah,
That would have been an
Huckabee,
unusual pick.
okay, yeah.
Um, you know, on paper, on paper, uh, President-elect Trump's nominees for cabinet positions read like a pro-Israel all-star list.
Yeah,
Not
pretty
all of
much.
them, but I was the nominee for Secretary of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
he-
Hedzik, yeah, I
okay,
can't pronounce it yet.
I,
I'll by
we'll just call him.
2028, I'll have it down.
Yeah, let's call him just Pete.
Pete,
I saw two clips of him. One is he was walking through Hebron with Yishai Fleischer,
yeah,
which was really cool.
yeah.
What was even better was him at a conference talking about the Jewish rights to Judea and
Oh,
Samaria,
yeah,
Temple Mount.
yeah,
Now, as private citizens versus, I'm sorry, I almost said cabinet ministers, cabinet secretaries, using our
yeah.
terminology, it's going to be fascinating to see what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what has irritated me enormously, and you're probably thinking, oh, that could be just about anything, is the
I'm just
is the
thinking this is going to be a long program.
yeah is the idea of people saying, both here and in the US, Trump is going to approve sovereignty, and we'll get to what that means in Judea and Samaria, and
Yeah.
Trump is going to this and Trump is going to that. He very well might. I certainly hope he does. But the issue that we need to be concerned about is not depending upon President-elect Trump to do everything for us. We have to want full Jewish sovereignty
Yeah.
in Judea and Samaria.
Yeah.
We have to be prepared to reclaim the Temple Mount. The idea that somehow President Trump, as president, is going to wave a magic wand and make everything better. We have the expression in Hebrew, "Ein somchim al hanes." Don't depend upon miracles. Don't depend on the president of America. Now, the current president of America just
Who
saying
is that, by the way?
it's
I'm not
supposed
sure.
to be Joe Biden.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know
not sure.
if you had insight that I didn't have.
No, I really don't. It's too far away.
Yeah.
Although, I do have to remind our listeners, everyone in Israel, every rabbi that was involved with making predictions for the future insisted that Trump was going to win in the last election. And there was a whole site on Facebook based on Geulah, the redemption.
Yeah.
And they were writing this stuff all the time. So about 2 months afterwards, I put up a post saying, have any of these rabbis that said that this absolutely was going to happen, have any of them walked back their positions? Have any of them explained why they were wrong? So someone, and I actually knew this person, wrote in it and explained that Trump actually is still the president. Biden is not the president. No one in the Pentagon will deal with him. And this was the best part. The White House butler left with the keys, and Biden can't get into the Oval Office. Seriously.
Okay.
Okay. My response was the following. Okay, ... The butler with the keys in the Oval Office. Of course, the game of Clue. So no one knows what's actually going to happen. But again, I don't think that we should depend on the American government to clear everything from our path. We have to be the masters of our destiny. We have to be the ones that decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Well, let me give you an example. Let's go back to an example here about being involved. Is there's still this the statement that Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and that's just kind of accepted as wow, that's the truth. Well, basically the sign and maybe a desk and a few people, but the whole thing
that has changed.
That is changing.
For me to renew my American passport, I was able to go to the
I knew that, but still, it is kind of portrayed as, well, they picked up the whole building and moved it to Jerusalem. No,
they haven't even started construction.
No,
embassy complex.
Yeah, so people just assume that well, yeah, he did that. No, and so this goes to your statement, Hanok, of got to be involved in this, and people saying, pushing back and saying, no, the building is still not built. It's not even started yet. So we cannot continue to just state this almost lie and deceive people. You got to be involved in it and say, no, when it's moved and there is a building in Jerusalem, then we can say that he moved it there. So yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen posts on Facebook, not necessarily by Israelis, but by people comparing Trump once again to Koresh, Cyrus.
Yeah.
And someone sent me something, said, will you listen to this? And part of it implied that Trump was going to support the building of the third temple.
Yeah.
Now, you may have heard that as well.
Yeah, I did.
That's when this big vein over here throbs way too much. Because, first of all, a gentle reminder to all of our listeners, the Dome of the Rock currently sits
Hmm.
on the only place the temple can be built.
Hmm.
That was where the first temple stood, that was where the second temple stood, and that is where the third temple will stand.
Yeah.
Now, how the Dome of the Rock is going to get moved out of the way, and I'm waiting for someone to come up with the classic, well, get a couple of bulldozers up there and just knock it. Well, first of all, a gentle reminder, that's where the Evan Hashtiyah, the foundation stone, that's the stone that Abraham laid Yitzchak, Isaac upon. That's where the Aron Habrit, the Ark of the Covenant, stood. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum. That's before it wound up in the U.S. Army warehouse in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is when people say things that make me seem mature and rational,
Yeah, we got a
it's a
problem.
cause for deep concern.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, so what's going on in Israel right now? Again, let's get back to Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee, as ambassador of the United States of America, is not like Mike Huckabee, the former politician, evangelical Christian leader, coming to visit Israel with tour groups. So
Yeah.
we'll
I've
see.
been there. We actually were at Sukkot together, or Saigot winery together, yeah, years ago.
So this is an interesting thing on many levels. Now, Lebanon. Without a doubt, we have been cleaning the clocks,
Hmm.
Hezbollah. This is the IDF at its best. I mean, the whole pager thing was started, it seems, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We knew that there were tunnels. We didn't know that there were as many.
Hmm.
We knew that they were armed to the teeth. We didn't know how bad it was. We were spared only by Hashem's good graces from a major invasion from the north,
Hmm.
far more serious than what we had in the south,
Yeah.
which was horrific. So, as you mentioned, there are less rockets coming from Hezbollah because we've hit them so hard repeatedly. Because the projections for this war were that they were going to be able to fire over 2,000 a day,
Hmm.
which would have totally overwhelmed our defenses. And as you saw, whether it was Tel Aviv or Ramat Gan, the news reports are kind of fuzzy. There were hits.
Oh, yeah.
These get through. It's not just the drones that get through. Um, so you hear rumors about a ceasefire. Israel, at least to date, is really holding our ground,
Hmm.
saying that Hezbollah has to pull back beyond the Litani River, which frankly is no longer good enough.
Hmm.
That was okay in 2006. 18 years later, it's a far
Oh.
more difficult, dangerous situation. We continue shedding blood. We have lost, 800
Hmm.
men and women since the war started.
Yeah.
And what I did was often when I talk about the Yom Kippur War, or when I used to talk about the Yom Kippur War, because now we have another disaster to talk about that superseded it 50 years later, I always compare it to the American population to give people a sense of the scope.
Hmm.
So the American population is approximately 37 times the Israeli population.
Hmm.
And again, math is not my forte. Um, so based on the American population, that 800 number would be 30,000.
Wow.
And again, think of the horrific losses that America had in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then multiply that.
Yeah.
Um, the slaughter of 1,200 civilians when the war began would have been the equivalent of 44,400 Americans being killed in a day, American civilians. And our hostages, 251, would have been 9,287 Americans abducted in one day.
Hmm.
This is the scope of what we deal with.
And you're not even going into the number of soldiers that have lost limbs, that
No,
have,
that are named.
the number of orphans, the number of
No,
spouses. I mean, this thing
no.
continues to go on and on when we start to put the math to it. How many? I'm just communicating last couple of days with uh, my old guide as opposed to my young guide. Miriam Feinberg Vamash
Yeah,
was my guide for many years, and I met her daughter, one of her daughters. I met her
yeah.
both, but
So the post,
Maya,
yeah.
yeah, Maya was a soldier in that day, and got to meet her up in the Galilee. And she now has I guess she's a mom now, and has started a company called Milk Care. And just to give you a commercial, you can go to milkcare.com. There's also a post shared on Facebook if anybody'd like to help her with investment capital on that. But it's for moms and babies. And I mean, not something I normally get involved in there, but so I've been communicating with Miriam, and her husband was is passed away now, Arik of blessed memory. He was a soldier in the Sinai and was a paraplegic. So I met him many years ago, and that's not one of the stats that you normally hear. So
No,
there's all kinds of
no.
Ariks now out there.
And then the number continues to
Yeah,
grow.
yeah.
And that has nothing to do with the cases of severe PTSD
Oh yeah.
that will happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happening. We have some reservists that have served 300 days in the last 13 months, or even more. I mean, it's a tremendous burden on our society, on families, on individuals. On the other hand, last week, having been in the Gaza envelope area and meeting the people involved in coordinating volunteer activities, the amount of people that continue to come, even with the difficulties of flying here. And by
Yeah.
the way, just saw an article just a few hours ago that Israel and Arkia are now going to be flying direct US to Israel.
Mhm.
They're going to rent planes from European airlines. They're going to be staffed with foreign crews, but they're going to get in on that Israel to US market.
Oh, good.
I then read that Air Dubai has been flying 4 to 5 flights a day to
Mm.
Israel. So people have been flying to Dubai and then over to Israel. So that's in and of itself interesting.
Yeah, I just
And
did not
again,
do
the
it.
fact that, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I don't think I'll be going to Dubai. Since you brought that up, let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
We see all the people in Trump's administration, and let me be quite clear that I'm overwhelmed at the choice here as opposed to the cackling one. So we're watching this. It looks pro-Israel. We can still have the ability and the right to kind of dissect this and look at different aspects of it. So, but the other night, I didn't watch that fight with Tyson. I'm not really into watching two people beat each other up, but there was a picture of
they
Trump.
didn't really beat each
Uh,
other up in
yeah,
the
I
end.
heard that. It was kind
They
of like,
just, yeah,
yeah, one of them just
yeah,
laid down, went to sleep. Um, there was a picture with Trump and Elon Musk, who was a story of itself. but behind him was a top finance person from Saudi Arabia. Uh, you know, that 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 does send some red flags to me. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts?
There are going to be a lot of surprises in this
Yeah,
coming administration.
yeah, yeah,
And even vis-a-vis Israel, um, when we read in the Tanakh, those who depend on chariots and those who depend on
yeah,
cavalry, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I don't, there were the issues of the Biden family in China. There were issues with Trump and Russia, Saudi Arabia, for sure. I wouldn't be at all surprised if during the upcoming Trump administration that there would be some deal between the US, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Um, this quote unquote normalization,
yeah.
that somehow Saudi Arabia might drop the demand for a so-called Palestinian state. However, I keep reading that the quote unquote deal of the century, I keep putting everything in quotes here, of Trump's last administration is going to be resurrected, revived, and put on the table yet again.
We'll have to see. Hey, before we run out of time, annexation of Judea, Samaria, wrongly
Okay.
called the West Bank.
Yeah.
So, what I probably don't understand this real well, but could you give us an idea of what that actually means?
Okay. First of all, it would not be all of Judea and Samaria.
Okay.
That's an important thing. In all likelihood, and again, this was from the last Trump administration,
Mhm.
but then they put the brakes on it at the last minute.
Yeah.
The idea was going to be that the area is not controlled by the so-called Palestinian Authority. In other words, all the areas where Jews are currently living, about 500, 550,000 Jews, depending how you look at it, that would be declared part of the state of Israel. Now, here's where it is currently not considered part of the state of Israel
Yeah.
by us,
Yeah.
by us Israelis. In other words, there's a law that has to be passed every couple of years that allows Jewish residents in Judea and Samaria to vote in the Israeli elections. I mean, this is the kind of thing where your head wants to explode. It's crazy. Now, the idea of Trump supporting that idea, there's a Latin expression, I don't speak much Latin, quid pro quo.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard in general for Israel to say no to Donald Trump.
True.
So, and everything is good. And again, the deal of the century had annexation of parts of Judea and Samaria that America would approve it, and the creation of something called a Palestinian state located in part of Judea and Samaria and all of Gaza. And again, remember, our biggest problem in Gaza right now are not the remaining Hamas terrorists, but the fact that we have no one to turn it over to.
Yeah.
We can't walk away. The world is demanding that we do, but we can't. It's a real problem. It's a real problem for us, and ultimately for the world. And of course, Gaza and the Arabs in Judea and Samaria were going to be linked by a tunnel. I mean, come on, what could go wrong with a tunnel, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that there's not much there. Yeah. So this is interesting that this would be in terms of America. This would be like every 2 years, putting it up before Congress on whether Texans get to vote in America or not, and we
It's a
turn
good
Texas back
analogy.
over. Yeah, turn it back over to the Mexicans or something like that. Um, the it's just to me it's crazy, and you said that kind of Israel beholden to Trump. We've seen that, and this would be the first time on the program 30 something minutes here that we've mentioned the word Netanyahu. That's the record. I think that to think that he is going to be in any way going against Trump, I doubt it. I just don't see that.
It's there are certain things like a number of Netanyahu's policies. For instance, it was very clear that for the first half of the war, it was the IDF leadership that was pushing us to be more aggressive in Gaza and to take on Hezbollah. In fact, Yoav Gallant, who had been our defense minister until recently, on October the 8th, once Hezbollah started firing missiles, said we should preempt them.
Yeah.
Then when we did strike at Hezbollah and were so incredibly successful, now Netanyahu is claiming all the credit. He's the one with the vision. He's the one doing it. I mean, the guy is a megalomaniac, and he has convinced himself that Israel needs him, that there is no one else that can lead Israel at this time but him.
Before we finish, I just want to mention something. You mentioned Mir Kahana, of blessed memory. The article that his brother did last week, Nachman Kahana, was probably, in my opinion, I think it was last week or the week prior to, was probably the best one that he ever did. It was a warning going back to, this total support that Israel may throw toward the United States, and consider what happened 2,000 years ago when they did that. It was called Rome.
Yeah, we really, really need to be careful. We need to
Yeah,
be cautious. And you know what? It's great if people are more comfortable with the 47th president and his administration. It's great. It's great. I mean, y'all know what I thought of the 46th administration.
yeah,
But the issue is what's going to happen in 4 years?
yeah,
Israel needs to view our relationship with America as a bipartisan one.
true.
We deal with both of the parties. We deal with all of America and Americans. And it's really, really dangerous when you go out of your way to diss a person and or an ideology in a world where things, it's a pendulum. It
Yeah.
swings back and forth.
In the
Someone
end,
today asked me, why is America so extreme? They seem to go from here to here,
yeah,
nowhere in the middle.
yeah. In the end, the scripture is clear, in my opinion, that Israel must stand alone.
Yeah, what America may, again, I say, if there will be partial sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, it's going to come at a price.
Yeah, everything does.
Yeah, this is, it's really funny. Even my beloved Costco, I don't have one of those magic membership cards, but when my friends take me, I do have to pay for it.
That's
You know,
right.
maybe it's their card that goes in, but I pay later.
But you're the one that does it.
I'm the
Yep.
one that does.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, hey, take care, and we'll
You,
see you
Mike.
next week. And look
Very
forward to,
well.
you're going to be here, pretty soon.
Yeah, people who are asking, by the way, uh, why I haven't posted a schedule. There are a number of last minute changes,
Sure.
and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that, and oh, those dates no longer work
Yeah.
for us, and what about? So I honestly, I will get it out as soon as I can. There are some changes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing the final draft there.
Thanks, man.
All right. See you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.